Meghan Markle is a lousy investor, and she is planning on making entrepreneurship and investing a critical part of her portfolio. And so far, I have been less than impressed with her business acumen and the companies she is choosing to invest with, and how she is sort of framing herself as part of their success, when in many times she just came in as they were already growing and achieving great things. And yet she sort of claims it for herself. And she's also very selfish in how she invests, because really she wants them all to, let's say, make money because the item or the product is seen on her or is attached to her in some way. It's a very, very strange approach, and one that she had to proclaim to the New York Times, of all places, that yes, she is a dolphin investor, not a shark. Well, I wouldn't even call her a dolphin investor because dolphins are very smart and clever. I think she's more of a guppy investor, to be quite honest. And I'm going to explain to you why I think that is. So stay tuned. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany and I provide compelling royal commentary. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, I would absolutely love to have you back. We have an amazing time here. We talk about many royal households as well, including on the Crown Report and everything. So again, I would love to have you guys back. All right, so this video is one I have been thinking about for quite a while, because I have been watching Meghan Markle try to angle herself in this business direction, and I am both flummoxed, immensely flummoxed, but also severely unimpressed. And of course, the biggest and most obvious thing is that she can't even run a business. She can't even get American Riviera Orchard off the ground. They lost the Spotify deal. Netflix doesn't seem like it's far behind. And so we're supposed to believe that she's going to be this gangbuster investor. I mean, she's told us that her new career is going to be entrepreneurship, which is not really a career, because great entrepreneurs, guess what they've done? They've successfully started and sold a business. Meghan Markle can't even start her business. It's in trademark health. So how in the world is she going to achieve this? Because it's a huge question. And I think she's approaching this in really the wrong way and without an ounce of experience. Because yes, her and Harry have made a little chunk of change, actually mostly Harry. But in order to actually be very, very successful, you have to have a good eye for business. And I just don't think Meghan has that. She is invested in businesses that really can't scale well or have a very, very niche market in a market that's already very, very saturated. And so, yes, they have sort of an angle, but is that angle sustainable, especially as the economy changes? Will people invest in something like Cesta Collective bags, which are expensive and have no shelf life, you could say, or resale value, and compared to something like a Louis Vuitton or somewhere else? It's just all very strange. So let me go over my first point here, and I will bring this with a caveat. I am not a business major. I would not consider myself to be fantastic overall at business, but I have tried to watch and observe people who are much better than I am. And I've also watched a heck of a lot of Shark Tank. And that might seem like a misnomer. It might not seem very important. But honestly, you learn a lot watching that show. You learn a lot about what questions they're asking and so many things. And I watch that show in part to get inspired for my own business, because they're asking questions investors should ask. And I'm wondering if Meghan Markle's only question is, will you let me help you promote it? Will you let me buy the products for free? Can I wear this and have people pay me? That seems to be her sole questions, not can you scale your business well? How sustainable is it in the long run? Have you had any issues with manufacturing? Can you get your manufacturing costs down? Anything related to that? Those are real questions to ask. I doubt Meghan Markle is asking any of those. So let me share with you some of the issues I see with Meghan Markle's business strategy here. Number one is that she seems to want to only invest in female-led businesses. Now, others have done something similar, and I understand where that's coming from. But at the same time, there's just a part of me that thinks, oh goodness, couldn't you maybe figure out how to do that? I don't know if better is the right word, but are you potentially missing out on other potential investments because you're only focusing on female-led initiatives? And this goes a long way with Meghan Markle's whole feminism approach, which doesn't seem to be men and women are equal. It seems to be that women are held down and must be superior to men and down with the patriarchy. Now, people can debate how much of an impact the patriarchy has or what have you. But that's not really, I feel like, solely the issue. It just seems like she's so incredibly focused on women over men. And I just seem to think, oh, she does have a son. Does she care that much about him? It's just a big question. But when it comes to businesses, if you're only investing in female led, you might miss out on a massive opportunity that might be 1,000 times better and have 1,000 times return because, oh, it happens to be a guy leading it. And down with men, right? Down with men. You can't do men. And yes, obviously sometimes women need maybe a bit more support or something like that. But it also seems so constricting and how she's always portrayed herself or her vision of feminism in particular is that it's all led by the patriarchy and that she needs to be superior to men. That's what I feel like. I just don't think that approach is necessarily going to work.
I'm out.
So that's sort of the first issue I have. The second issue is that she is choosing niche products in a highly saturated market. So niche can do well for you 100%. But when you think about, let's say, clever blends, it is something that's very niche. So according to its website, it says we're committed to creating absurdly delicious, highly functional, low maintenance drinks that help you meet modern life with energy, calm, and resilience. We got this. Sincerely, the clever team. Yes, that is actually what it says on the website. I should show you it since we're talking about it. Here we go. There is their note to the audience. Now, this is not awful, but I don't quite understand what it is either. It's something to the effect of it's like a latte thing. So let's go ahead and shop here. And so it's like super lattes, pumpkin spice super latte, and these aren't cheap, by the way. And so it's an instant latte, just add water, but and it's supposedly so healthy and everything, and they have some for sleep time and what have you. There's kits and bundles, so many different things, but these are not cheap. These are definitely on the pricier end. Now, one pack is $28. Now, if you go to Target, it's like $21, but it's only for, I think, 12 servings. So it's really quite a lot for what you're getting. And so if you like this, sure. But do you know what's really saturated with like a whole bunch of stuff? Coffee. There's coffee everywhere. I actually lived in one place. It was sort of a small town, and there was a coffee place on like every stinking corner. And so it's like, how much of an impact will this really have? That's a big question. Now it's healthier and everything, but sort of a niche thing that will only appeal to certain people, and only certain people are going to be willing to pay that 28 bucks. Now, when it comes to going to Starbucks all the time, yeah, Starbucks, of course, is more expensive at the end of the day, but Starbucks also gives you a finished drink and Clever does not. You have to make it yourself. And I did read a little bit in the Target thing that you do have to maybe have a frother helps. Ooh, rose cocoa super latte. Hmm. Should I maybe get this and like try it at some point? I don't actually like coffee. So, and like you have to get oat milk, I think. So it says oat milk plus cream. I don't know if that's in there or that's what you have to mix it with. It says just add water with oat milk and coconut milk already in the mix. Oops. So, yeah, and you have to have this frother thing. So if you don't have that, then you might have to buy it. So this is not, let's say, something where it's just like grab it and go type of thing. You might have to get a little bit of something together. So I'm not sure how much this appeals to people, to be quite honest. And it has gotten into Target and Whole Foods, which is great. But it was interesting because they, in an article I was reading, it calls it an investment, and they're not sure if they're going to get a return on their investment. So I will try to do a bit of research, go to Target, check it out, and let you know what I find in terms of clever blends, because supposedly it is in store, and I don't know how well it's selling. But this is a niche thing in a saturated market. So yeah, you will have an audience, but this is not scalable because only a certain number of people will buy it. Only a certain number of people, like my grandparents, black coffee doesn't need anything in it. My mom likes her creamer. Will she buy this? Probably not, because she gets a heck of a lot more out of her creamer than she'll get out of this. So, huge questions. I obviously buy hot chocolate and I pay a premium for my hot chocolate. I'm totally fine with that. But some people are like Swiss Miss and I'm good to go. And that's fine. So, yes, you will find an audience, but I think it's somewhat limited. Now you look at Sesta Collective. Oh, fashion is a massively saturated market. Handbags, of course, hugely, hugely saturated. And so they have this, which honestly I think is kind of terribly designed, to be quite honest. And they have a angle, a niche, is that these are created by talented female artisans in Rwanda who are the best at their craft. Now there's a question of how much these women are being paid. It says we create consistent fair wage opportunities that empower women and drive sustainable income. Each piece is hand finished in Italy and is reflected of our thoughtful approach to production, from the materials we use to the wages we pay. Now, there will be people who this appeals to, but do you really want to pay $800 for a bag you cannot resell? Because the advantage of the luxury market, hate it, love it, what have you, is that if you buy a Louis Vuitton bag, you can resell that Louis Vuitton bag and make a fair amount on it, or at least get close to what you originally paid for it, especially as they increase the prices. So if you bought the bag and it was 1,500 initially, which granted is about double what this is, you may still be able to sell it for $1,500 later because of the inflation, because the bag now is $2,000 or over $2,000. So you may still be able to resell it for around 15. So you've actually made your money back. Sometimes if you've gotten a special edition, you might be able to make even more money off the bag. With this, you spend 800 plus dollars and you probably can resell this thing for $100 maybe, because nobody knows what this is and nobody cares. So there's a risk here. And yeah, you might feel good for helping women in Africa, which is great, but you don't know what they're doing on the back end to help them. And so this just to me has a really, really limited shelf life. And it's just not something that's scalable. And this company even admits here in this New York Times piece of Meghan as a dolphin investor that they typically produce in small batches of between 25 and 50 units. That's not that impressive. Michael Kors, I'm sure, makes thousands of the same bag and sells them every year. So can they increase this, or are they stuck at 25 to 50 units? I don't think this business is very scalable, to be quite honest. I don't think it is. And because of that, and it's already in a massively saturated market with bags that are the same price or more with better name recognition and a longer history. And because the market is so saturated, to break in is difficult and to sustain is difficult. Yes, you may have a high for a little bit, but even big name brands with big clients like the Vampire's Wife can fail due to various situations regarding the brand and what's going on. Zach Posen also collapsed at one point. I think he's been able to restart. Roland Moret as well. And so fashion is an incredibly competitive and saturated industry. So if I was looking to invest my money and they only had a revenue of $1 million, they could only keep about 25 to 50 units on hand. And how long does it take them to go through that? Probably quite a while. Is this a worthwhile investment? I would say no. You got a niche part of an overly saturated market. So, yeah, you might make some traction, but you might also have some problems too. Highbrow hippie is sort of, you could say, interesting. Highbrow hippie is an interesting one because they have, let's say, hair care items here, but these are expensive. You get the two together for $206. And this is an essential well-being complex, which is probably similar to something you can get at GNC for a tenth of the price. So do you want to pay $118? Is it worth that? Probably not. I don't know. You have a root replenish. Could you get that somewhere else for $28 or even $18? Probably. Would it give you about the same stuff? Probably. And this is a woman who has a salon that is quite successful. And so is Meghan Markle really lifting up a business that needs an investor? Or is she getting in on something that's already somewhat successful in terms of actually having a hair salon and sort of sneaking in to sort of maybe piggyback on the hope that this will be a massive success? The reality is it won't, because this is a niche product also in an overly saturated market. Niche in particular because it's so high priced. So those are some of the issues I see with the sort of nicheness in an overly saturated market. Because again, beauty massively saturated, handbags massively saturated, coffee massively saturated. These are industries that are already huge with so many possible options. How are yours going to be any better? And just because you're Meghan Markle doesn't mean you move product. Doesn't mean you move product. Veronica Beard can attest to that. Yes, you sold some of that vest, but you know what? It's still on sale on the website. Still on sale there. So you didn't move all of them.
I'm out.
And the other problem, and I mentioned this a bit, so we won't spend too much time on this, is that you can't scale this. What I mean by scaling is you can't massively overproduce this. What I mean is that it's not going to be easy for you to go from having 50 on hand, in the case of Sesta Collective, to 200 on hand. It's not going to be easy for them to do. They have to manufacture these partially in Rwanda, then go to Italy. All that takes time and money. And then you have to get them to the United States. So all this is expenditure that is more cumbersome that other businesses sometimes don't have to deal with. Yes, maybe they do it in China and that's not good either, but these aren't easily scalable because they're niche. They're small markets. So they're not going to be huge. Trying to think of if I have something on my desk that might be a good example, but I don't really. Oh, here's an interesting thing. So I got this Sky candle company, Isle of Sky candle company candle, and it smells great. And I got this in particular because I don't think this would sell well necessarily in the States because there's a million candle companies. We don't need more. But what makes this, I think, sellable and marketable is if you're in Scotland, particularly on the Isle of Skye. So I wanted to make sure I bought this on the Isle of Skye. There's a store in Edinburgh, but I wanted it from the Isle of Skye because, yes, it's an overly saturated market. This thing can't scale because there's a million candles out there. But if I buy this from the Isle of Skye, that's like a special connection. I've been there. I think it's really cool. And I can tout this collection, this connection. A different candle with a mass market, you could say, is Joe Malone. I got this actually for a video example a little bit ago. So this is the Orange Blossom, which apparently Catherine used at her wedding. So this Joe Malone, I'm sure they manufacture thousands of these a year. Thousands. Because it's scalable, because Joe Malone has a market. People like the scent. And so you can scale these up pretty easily because it already has a market share. Now, these companies have a market share, and I don't think they're scalable either because they're too niche. Joe Malone, yes, it's sort of pricey. It's sort of more on the upscale end of the candle thing. So you can get cheap candles, you can get more expensive candles. Like, that's all possible. But these are not scalable companies in my personal estimation because they will hit a roadblock pretty quickly because they can't grow. A counterexample would be Royal News Network. There is a point where I will overly saturate the market, but the thing is that Royal News Network really has a long way to go to actually meet the ceiling of that because I'm only me. So I can only handle so much content. And there's so much content out there because there's multiple families. You have the barrier of language, but there's multiple families, there's histories, all these sorts of things. So there's so much that you could pull from for realty. That's so different than what Meghan Markle is doing, in part because mine is digital. When it comes to digital, that's so much more scalable oftentimes than something tangible like a product because you have to have store placement, you have to have an online store, all these sorts of things. Whereas me, it's pretty easy. I do invest in equipment and stuff like that, but it is sort of easy for me to scale in a way. I mean, I haven't even hit history, which I really want to do. Fashion, I'm so bad about getting stuff on the fashion channel sometimes, guys. I do apologize. There's just so many different options for scalability at Royal News Network that doesn't exist in the products and the companies that Meghan Markle is exposing us to as her investments.
Hey, I'm out.
So next issue is that Meghan Markle seems to want to insert herself into these companies or insert herself as part of the promotional. And I somewhat get that, but I also think it's very self-reflective. Like she invested in Sesta Collective because, oh, and this is literally what she says in the New York Times piece. She noticed that Strathberry sold out of the particular bag she wore at a particular event, and she wanted to be part of that. So she thinks if she wears the bag, it'll sell out and make her money. Now, that's not a terrible way to go about things, but it's very limited because I'm sorry, but she's not going to sell out things in the same way maybe Catherine does, maybe another celebrity does. She just doesn't have that huge impact. So this idea that her being attached to it is going to really make it massively successful, I think is sort of it's sort of very much a limited viewpoint, in my opinion. Very limited viewpoint of the impact that she has and everything. It's very self-obsessed rather than thinking, okay, will this appeal to most women or just women who just think like me? Now, Meghan Markle's a narcissist, so she probably thinks if she wears something, everybody wants to be her. And I get it. That's part of her pathology. But the reality is I don't think that's going to go as far as she thinks it does. We've already seen that she can't really sell out things all that much. And she sometimes chooses brands that are so expensive that they probably only produce things in a small batch so she can claim she sold out, but there was never that many to begin with. So she says the Cesta Collective bag that she wore sold out. But how many did they have on hand? They usually only have 25 to 50. But what if that bag wasn't selling well to begin with and they had just 12 on hand? Well, she sold 12. Sure, that's great, but it's different between selling 12 and 1,200. That's a massive, massive difference. Even if it was 25, like 25 still, I mean, it's a decent number, but 25 versus 2,500, then you're talking real bucks. And how much does it cost to manufacture? And so what do you actually make on the product? How much of the product cost do you get to keep? Or how much of the product sale do you get to keep? Because part of it goes to marketing, part of it goes to manufacturing, part of it goes here, there, and everywhere. So how much are they actually making on the products? That's a big question, especially because Cesta Collective, I feel like, is overly cumbersome with some things. So that's another problem. I'm out. She also seems to come in at these businesses, and this is another issue, as they're already doing well and seems to want to capitalize on their success and attribute it to her. I feel like this with Cesta Collective because it was probably doing pretty well, but all of a sudden it's like she has to have an entire stinking New York Times article about how she's investing in the company. I'm like, how is this supposed to move things forward? I don't understand. It's not really going to make it more successful for you to go to the New York Times and go, you need to tell them I'm a dolphin investor and I've invested in this company so that people buy more of it. That's just a terrible advertisement. I invested in it, so you need to buy it so I make money. What you should do in this particular situation is says, I invested in a company and it's amazing. You need to check out their products and you need to show off the products and those sorts of things. Like she wears it occasionally at an engagement so you can see it and then she hopes you buy it. It's just a terrible way to go about things. It's so influencery. And yes, sometimes I show off Ana Lucia. I have my jewelry cleaner right there, but I've used it. I found it very helpful. Actually, my video I uploaded earlier, I cleaned this necklace, a sterling silver necklace from Tiffany & Co. It said more, and so it looks better. I has cleaned up my other Tiffany & Co. ring here that also got tarnished, and so it's like I've used it, I've showed it. It's a good price. It's an interesting product because yes, the jewelry cleaner market is oversaturated, but I haven't seen anything quite like this that not only has a functionality but a look. And that is really cool. Now, granted, will that appeal to everyone? No. And that's totally fine. And I didn't come into Ana Lucia as it was like, I don't even know where they were in their process, to be quite honest. Because, yeah, they were merging, they were growing, they were on the Home Shopping Network and those sorts of things. But I don't know where they were. But I don't attribute their success or anything to me because I'm just doing what I can. And if people love it, great. That's always been my philosophy. I show you what I love and what I wear every day and what I change around and stuff. I got different earrings this time and everything. So for me, when it comes to sharing things, I don't want to share with them just because of, you could say, the paycheck or whatever. I'm like, I need to be really passionate about it. But I feel like Meghan Markle approaches everything as a paycheck. And she only wears certain things at certain times. And she always wants to be photographed with those particular things, hoping they sell because she can only be an influencer. That is her level. She's not a great actress. She's not a great producer. She's not a great businesswoman. She is essentially an influencer, and that is her level. I think trying to expand beyond that is actually what's hurting her.
And for that reason, I'm out.
So next issue is that she's a bit of an elitist with her investments. Cesta Collective, only a certain number of women can buy it. And as a result, you can't scale it. And again, you have the issue of I can buy a luxury bag for maybe double the price, but I can also sell it for double the price or triple, quadruple the price of what I could ever resell Cesta Collective. They'll probably just look at it and go, well, it's a real leather bag, $100. Go, yeah, I guess. Or maybe even $50. Sometimes you can't even sell stuff like that to a resale market because nobody wants it. I've had that problem with a bag I bought on sale and I was like, let me try to resell it and nobody wants it. So I think people who try to resell Cesta, if they want to, will find the same thing. And I say that because people who invest in luxury, sometimes they want to change up their collection. They do sell. That's kind of what they do. And so to ignore that potential resale aspect, I think is sort of huge. But you look at Cesta Collective, it's expensive. You look at Clever Blends, it's expensive. If you look at Highbrow Hippie, it's expensive compared to what you can normally get. So she's investing in women who are already successful on some level. that as well. She's not picking someone who's struggling every day to make ends meet, trying desperately to get their company off the ground and have a really gangbuster idea, but just don't know how to make things grow better. I feel like a bit with that with Royal News Network because it's growing, it's doing really well, but I'm just myself and I feel like I can't do it. And I was like, I need to get to a point maybe where I can have investors. I don't know. But that's a struggle I have. But these women, like highbrow hippie, that woman is charging $550 for a full balayage. Think she's doing just fine. So does she really need an investment from Meghan? Meghan's only choosing elite people to make investments with. She's not going and finding the struggling single mom who has a fantastic idea and needs some help. Meghan's going with friends. She's going with people who are already have a bit of a success there and she just wants to capitalize on it. She's not really going for people who actually need an investment. Now, granted, something like Shark Tank could expose you more to those kind of people. And so maybe she's can't really find them, but I bet you they exist. And I bet you she's not interested because she's only interested in the elite.
I'm out.
And I think, and this is another mistake, is that she has such a poor portfolio so far, and yet she's so stinking proud of it. I was like, it's okay, but this is not like gangbusters. You didn't invest in Facebook when it was nothing. These are products. That's the other thing I think is a mistake on Meghan's end is that these are product, not technology companies. You know what's going to make you a heck of a lot of money? Technology. A coffee brand is not in an already saturated market in a niche product as well. A handbag brand probably isn't going to, especially a niche market in an overly saturated market. And then highbrow hippie is probably not going to make you a boatload of money. She might make her money back. Will she make the quadruple 150 times maybe her initial investment? No, because again, they can't scale. So she can't even get really her investment back in a way that you can with a tech company. So yeah, she might do fairly well, but honestly, I think the overhead here is minimal. It's minimal. So how is she going to make that much? It just doesn't seem to be possible.
For that reason, I'm out.
And here is the last biggest mistake Meghan Markle has made is that she has started to be an entrepreneur without having a successful business behind her. Do you know why entrepreneurs come up? It's because they have created a company, sold it, and been successful as business people. That is what makes a good investor. Somebody who can see a good business and grow and develop it, or someone who sees something that's really getting off the ground and going to be very successful and getting behind it. Meghan Markle is not doing that because she has failed at her own business. She launched American Riviera Orchard 8 months ago. She launched it on March 14th. Actually, ironically, I think it was a Thursday or maybe it was Friday. I can't remember. But today's obviously Friday when I'm filming it, November 15th, and won't get out today, but it'll get out later. She launched it 8 months ago. She created an email capture system because you send in your email and you can't get it back because you can't unsubscribe because she hasn't sent an email. She sent jam, something as pedantic as jam, to her friends in a bowl of lemons and leaves. That's all she has. And she's created a short video. There is nothing to this brand. It's in trademark hell. And yet she thinks she can make smart investment decisions. I don't think investors would even invest in her at this point because to business people, people who know what they're doing, she looks like an epic train wreck. And I would not be surprised at all if she is struggling to get investors and people to help her because they're looking and going, why the heck did you launch this months early without a plan, without the trademarks? Why the heck did you do that? And she goes, well, Richard Eden I don't give two craps about what Richard Eden was going to write. You just be quiet and work on it. And then he can either prove it true or false. Like she could have gotten one over on Richard Eden because Richard Eden claims that Meghan launched American Riviera Orchard early because he had a story about it and was going to write about it. She could have gotten one over on him by not saying anything, letting the story die, and then if she couldn't get the trademarks and everything, relaunching it as something else entirely. But no, she got spooked or wanted to make sure she got ahead of the story, but she did it in the worst way possible. She shouldn't have reacted at all. And so how in the world can she get investors to help her? And how can she invest in companies when she can't even get her own running? Like, it's just money down the drain because, yeah, she can invest in clever brands as it expands to Target and Whole Foods. But what if it fails? Because it's already in a store that is filled with a million other coffee products. What is going to make somebody pick up one that's twice what they can get somewhere else on the shelves? And people might love it. People might still buy it, but you have an inherent risk. And I don't know if Meghan Markle gets that. Even her launch of her brand, American Riviera Orchard, the first thing she may launch is a rosé wine. There are a million rosé wines. Meghan is so uninspiring as an entrepreneur, as a potential investment in American Riviera Orchard, as a businesswoman. She is so uninspiring, so uncreative, so like completely lacks innovation. She's not someone who can figure out how to do things well. She is massively, massively failing here. And I don't know where she goes. I don't know where she goes, but she needs to stop portraying herself as this great investor and stop leaving little hints here and there that, oh, I've invested in this company. I've invested in that company. No one is impressed, Meghan Markle. No, no, I'm not impressed. I can't think of anyone else who would be impressed. I have shared the name American Riviera Orchard with my dad, and he laughs at it. He's a very successful business guy. And he works hard and he enjoys it though. And he's good at figuring out companies or what to do and different things. And he's really, really good at what he does. Meghan Markle is not good at what she does. And she needs to sort of stop while she's already behind because it's just going to get worse. What if Sesta Collective folds? What if they can't get the products from Rwanda in a decent period of time? What if that region descends into war or conflict or something? What if there's an issue with manufacturing in Italy? Sure, she might gain a little pennies from it, but I doubt she is going to recoup a huge amount of the investment she's made in these companies or get a huge overture of that. You know, she needs to invest in tech companies. She needs to start there. But she really, really needs to focus on is American Riviera Orchard. Until that company is off the ground, she should not be doing anything else. That she's going and doing these sorts of things are just an obvious distraction from her own failures because what is going to make her money is American Riviera Orchard at the end of the day. That's going to be what's going to make her the most money. And it seems like she's totally unfocused on it. She totally doesn't even talk about it, doesn't even tell us what the story is behind it. I don't know. And so, how can anybody else get behind it? As she herself seems to leave it always on the back burners.
It's a joke. It's a scam. It's not real. I'm out.
So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of some of my entrepreneurial advice. I don't know if any of it's good or not, but I would love to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you very soon. Bye.